with us. I've heard so much about you. I've seen your work from a distance, and I need to get to know more about your work because it's so fascinating from what little you've told me about it. I know there are three aspects to Savio Lobo. One is Savio the author, which is the most fascinating for me because I'm so much involved with books and I love getting new ideas from new books and things like that. So that's Savio the author. Then there's Savio the architect, and somewhere in between there's Savio the collector, which is as amazing. But first, Savio the author. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Frederick, for having me on this little interview, and I hope uh, it brings about some kind of revelation, not only about what I do, but about this beautiful concept of what we all experience through our lives, rather than exist and just do at the mundane. We are all of us, are gifted in some faculty, some facet, or the other, and I'm privileged really to be blessed with some faculties, and I'm trying to put them to good use and for the benefit of society. So I'm really happy. So as the author, I want to make a correction. You should know me as Savio the author, Savio the architect, and again another, to be more alliterative, Savio the archivist.
Okay.
Okay, not the collector. Collectors are normally insecure people who are, they're worried about where their next meal is going to come from, or what's going to happen to their collection. I'm very clear about exactly what I've been doing right from the time I decided to be an architect, which was, you know, way back when I was in school.
So how
So
did how did Bandra by Hand come about, and what is Bandra by Hand?
yeah, so Bandra By Hand is a book dedicated to the people of this beautiful suburb and neighborhood of Bombay, and it is normally called a mini Goa because of the kind of culture which exists there. It's a very bohemian type of neighborhood, uh, a classic intermix of, for example, communities which belong to Goa, which belong predominantly, of course, to East Indians, but lots of Mangaloreans, lots of Keralites, and of course, not to mention and not to ever forget the beautiful it's a microcosm of Bombay personally, because they're Punjabis, they're Sindhis, they're Muslims, and all communities, and it's really fascinating because it's also a place which has not been documented, as far as I know, for over a century. The last book written on Bandra was a book written in 1927 by a gentleman called Bras Fernandez, whom you may have heard of or not. Uh, so he talked about its secular culture right then, and somewhere down the line, there was this great friend and a great journalist called Daryl DeMonte, mentor to many, many young, cub reporters and whatever. And about one fine day he said, Savi, I'm so disappointed with architects. I know so many, and he named quite a few famous architects. And he said, and of course, they was much, much senior to me, and some of them have passed on. And he kept on saying, Savio, lamenting the fact that, Bandra is such a beautiful neighborhood. Would you be able to do something for it? So I said, fine. I mean, what does it entail? He's saying, we'll have to do it through a small little festival called Celebrate Bandra, which is quite a hit in the suburbs. So I said, fair enough. So he's saying we will make a small insert into this souvenir, and it will just have to be 5 or 6 pages. So I said, well, let's give it a try. So came about that it landed up as a book containing over 125 sketches of monuments, of unbuilt spaces. So and we did it in less than 15 months.
Why the title Savio Bandra by Hand?
Yeah, predominantly, actually, we've all forgotten the beautiful art of writing, the beautiful art of sketching, the beautiful art of putting our thoughts to paper, thanks to the digital age, and to you know. So I still am adept at you know, putting the faculty of the mind, the hand, and the eye together. And I suggested that why don't we do a book which, you know, gives the actual reality and, you know, the symbolic spirit of, you know, a structure which is in a minimal form. You know, it's not too detailed and not color. It's purely black and white, which is again a metaphor for clarity. And yeah, so the Bandra by Hand basically is an ode to, my hand, you see. And there will be books people can photograph, people can, you know, click, but finally the hand is, and the way one puts it on across on a paper is itself, a monument to, each structure which I have delineated, you see.
So this came about in which year, and how long did it take you to create?
Yeah, so it started in 2013 and we published it in 2014. So, in a very short span of time, this was actually, proposed, conceived, and we got it all published, and it was a bit of an uphill task because we were totally new to, uh, we thought it would basically get into only an insert of the, the souvenir of a festival called the Celebrate Bandra Festival, which is a landmark festival in Bombay and Mumbai, what we call Mumbai today. And unfortunately that year it didn't happen, but the book just outgrew that small little concept of, a few pages
Wow.
into
So it
this,
got life. It got life of its own.
into a life of its own. And Bandra is such a, I mean, it's even till today it's such a revealing place, like, still developing, still evolving. People are still, culturally, I think in terms of most of the neighborhoods of Bombay, Bandra is, something which is a very landmark, it has
It
a,
has special charm. It has special charm.
yes, it still has the
And
right,
you know, there's that saying in English that what the mind does not know, the eye does not see. So in
yes,
that sense, your book makes us aware of a whole lot of things that, you know, we would not have otherwise noticed. So
yes.
if you were to introduce your book from the, say, from the table of contents, how would you put it across to a reader who has not yet seen it?
The first thing is that I do not know whether it, it can be what do you call categorized into any genre, for example. Okay, but it's whether it's first and foremost, of course, you have fiction and non-fiction. In this case, it has history, it has geography, it has people's own. Actually, to me, the book is a tip of the pyramid, which I think must be, mentioned at this very point in our conversation. Uh, it is basically only the tip for two reasons. One is that I have actually done an oral history of about 125 people from the ages of 15 to almost 75, 80, including mother-in-laws, daughter-in-laws, mothers, daughters, husbands, wives, and whatever, who've grown up in this locality and have seen it change and manifest into what it is, what we see it today. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that it's definitely a historical document. I didn't realize it, but it's definitely something which is a document which future generations can definitely, go back to, because a lot of, what we call heritage, a lot of what we call culture is getting lost at a absolutely rapid pace, you see. And because of what I call a total community deterioration and erosion of values, we technically don't want to, we live in a disposable world. I mean, you have a phone and after a few months it's, its features change. We have computers which have certain characteristics. It's not like the days of yore where you had something and it lasted for maybe, a decade or more, you see.
So it has actually taken you quite a lot of time to get this information together and to collate it, though, while the process of making the book may have been a year or so. right?
No,
Would that be
so
right?
no, no, no. You're absolutely mistaken in that kind of judgment. It started in 2013 as a concept, and it ended 2014 as a finished product.
Wow, wow,
It's
wow,
unbelievable. I mean,
wow.
I lost about 10 kilos of weight. Trying to do all this because we not only did we, interview people, we gave them consent letters. We made sure that we would never reveal their names. We made sure that whatever they told us would be only never edited, and we gave them a copy of whatever we would be, putting in against their structure or against their building, so that they could, after getting a copy of their book, either complimentary or if they wished, they could pay for it. Uh, and in most cases, a lot of people decided that they wanted a complimentary copy, and we said, well, fair enough. I mean, it's part of the deal, so we don't mind giving it to you. And they actually tallied what they had said, what was written, what was signed, and they actually tallied it with what actually appeared in the book. And they came back and they said, we really honor your, we are really happy that you honored your commitment, and we honor you as an individual for sticking to that value of ethic, which never revealed our identity, our location, where these buildings are, because Bombay is going through I mean, not going through, but has gone through a rapid, urbanization process, and you know, uh, maybe 700 or 800 bungalows existed before, whereas only now about 200 remain. Or again,
Before
this
meaning? Before meaning?
means before the advent of urbanization, and Bombay.
Which year? Which year?
It probably started in the early 60s, perhaps, very gradually, and then, of course, rampantly, post 1900, 1990. So a lot of bungalows actually were demolished, not because the builders, profited from it, but because I think families expanded. Structures were getting dilapidated. They were. It's not easy to maintain. So it's a very, very tricky situation where when particularly in a situation like this, where we lament the loss of a bungalow, but it's so difficult. You don't get any incentives to maintain. You don't get any subsidies in terms of taxes from the government. And I proposed all those in the book, saying that these are the policies which should be adopted if you want bungalows or heritage structures or whatever it is, I mean, built or unbuilt, to remain. And
What you're saying, Savio, is so interesting and so important. It reminds me of the book by Brenda and Joe Rodriguez, whom you
absolutely,
definitely know,
of
The House
course,
at 43 Hill Road, which
yes,
documents the tragedy and the difficulties of just keeping this house standing,
yes.
and problems from all sides. And they've written a full book about that story, and it's fascinating. I thought that what Bandra has gone through and is going through today, it's Goa's already facing the same urban sprawl and kind of pressures. But having said that, what were the three or five most interesting findings that came out from your work in this book?
Hmm. That there were more cemeteries than I could ever imagine. I mean, as morbid as it may sound, again, uh,
How
you know,
many?
Bandra has 8 cemeteries and have documented the cemeteries. So there are, and they're very peculiar. There is a cemetery which was initiated, for example, for the unborn child. You see, when the church had, a certain regulation that unwed mothers or unwed parents could not bury their children in designated areas in cemeteries, and I thought that this was a rather cruel way to honor a life, or a life which has gone dead. You see, the child has not sinned for any fault of its own, and it didn't deserve such a place. But there is a cemetery which is which was designated about 25, 30 odd years ago, called the cemetery of the unbaptized child, and I think that is really sad. Of course, it's been renamed subsequently, and it's an obscure place right now. There's a Jewish cemetery, there's a seaside cemetery. So Bandra has actually got a kind of system of necropoli, and which no other neighborhood I think perhaps in the world has. It's and they're so well interconnected, because some of these cemeteries have records of births, deaths, and things like that, which go back hundreds of years. So it's a revelation. Of course, one has to go into church records to find out, in terms of your ancestors, if any, and things like that. But a lot of people have gone down in five, six, seven, eight generations, and are proud to know that their ancestors are, buried in their, their mortal remains, whatever it may mean, are still in, in a place which is designated. You see, so I mean, as I said earlier, as morbid as it sounds, the cemeteries were a definite. To me, I never understood that there could be so many cemeteries in one particular place. You see.
And then after Bandra by hand, we come to Mumbai by hand. Tell us about that.
Yeah, see, I was born and brought up in South Mumbai. So the most important thing is I started getting pokes from various people in my locality saying, "Excuse me, you've written about some place up north. How come you've not considered South Bombay?" And I said, for me actually South Bombay is so confusing, because there's so many beautiful localities. So to actually start and do something on South Bombay was itself a little bit of a transfixation for me. I mean, I was absolutely in a trance, and finally I decided that Churchgate, Cooperage, and the Oval Maidan are a beautiful neighborhood which need to be highlighted, and I immediately got under. You know, started doing all this in a very systematic manner, because I knew the way it had to be done, and I was familiar with all the roads, all the buildings. Knowing people, it was not a problem for introduction of what I was doing. I had a precedent in the, and they were very cordial and very inviting and absolutely receptive. So it was a revelation, because the scale and the typology of buildings automatically changed. In Bandra, I basically focused on, the bungalows and the low roofed structures rather than the buildings, which have just come up now, and not something which I really augur well with. But in the case of Churchgate, you had, beautiful buildings all across, which were built in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. The Churchgate station itself is an imposing building. And so I just sketched roundabouts, I sketched the Oval Maidan, I sketched, you know, and it was launched in the year 2019, after a gap of about 5 years, not because of anything, it's just because I was very busy at work, and I could not dedicate that kind of time. Also, uh, it took me many years to actually designate which part of South Bombay, because you have Kulaba, you have Fort, you have Marine Drive, all within a few 100 meters from each other. So
And
even
all competing for attention, all unique in their own way.
absolutely, and all deserving of a book, which is actually the start of the series. This Mumbai by Hand is going to be a series of books, particularly Bandra by Hand is a book by itself. But now we are going to reprint it in a new edition, and it will come under Mumbai by Hand, and it will be Bandra as a designation. So Bandra by Hand will, the first book, we were a little bit immature and naive because of the, the paucity of time and the constraints. that we had to, give it a name called Bandra by Hand. But now we just thought that we'll do it Mumbai by Hand, and if at all we do Bandra again, we will definitely put it under the Mumbai by Hand category.
One day Goa by hand.
We've spoken about this, and again, I want it because I'm born to parents of Goan descent, and a lot of people uh, mistake me for because of my surname being. I'm sorry to use the word Mangalorian because most Lobos are more dynamic, and more Mangaloreans are more dynamic in terms of whatever they do. I mean, not to lessen the uh,
Hard working.
exactly how very industrious, very time conscious, and they
Unlike us guys who enjoy the good things in life. Yeah. So,
no. But I am very proud to say that listen, don't go by the logo or the surname or the name or whatever. Go by what the merit of that person is under any circumstance. I mean, you can be from Kerala, you can be from Punjab. If you're a person who is doing good work, I think you deserve to be recognized. You deserve, and for the merit of the work. I mean, not because of your background, not because of your legacy. It's just that we are all given equal opportunities, and if we can make the best of it, I think that would be something sublime. You know,
so Savio, you're an architect with a difference, obviously.
yeah. If you think that's the way I operate, great. I mean, I respect you for your sentiment and your compliment.
But there is a kind of a bridge between architects and publishing, because in Goa we also have this great example of Gerard Viconia, who
Yeah.
has done some amazing work in that sense. No, so
Yes.
I mean, like at some level, do you feel that architecture feeds your creativity because you're looking at things differently and you can see a story where other people don't, and you feel the need to document it and keep it? Would that be right?
Yeah, actually, every time I came to Goa, I talking about Gerard. I mean, he's been a great, uh, a great architect for Goa, and I come from that village which is Salvador the Mon. So, and literally, it is. I come. My parents, one part of which came from Torda, which is basically where uh, he operates out of. And he's had a wonderful past. He's had a very colored, checkered past. And at some point in time, I always liked his disposition, which was absolutely not stressed. And somewhere down the line, I think, even though I don't practice out of Goa, I've been doing lots of work in Goa over the past 10 years. So I've designed structures, some of which have been built, some of which have remained, incomplete, but not to the scale of which Gerard has done. But I've always maintained, sweet conversations with even his seniors like Sarto Almeida, Ralin de Souza, who are all giants of their time and great inspirations. Of course, there's Lucio Miranda, and of course, there's Remo Fernandez, who are all architects by qualification, and wonderful musicians. I mean, Lucio Miranda was an absolutely gifted musician as well, and he practiced as well. I mean, he used to perform. I don't know if you remember, but I remember going to Haystack in Anjuna and seeing this man. And just to tell you, I am also a musician, so
Wow. Oh, wow.
yeah.
And the cassettes he came out with also, the cassettes he, and of course Remo
Yes,
is a huge name.
yes,
There's no doubt about it. But it's so nice that you're remembering these people, some of whom have passed, like Sato and. But
Sarthak last year, right?
yeah.
Yes,
But the fact is that by remembering them, we are kind of celebrating them, and very often I think we're just not aware or adequately aware of their achievements. Like very few would know that Remo the pop star has his roots in architecture. In that
yes.
sense, that's his professional training. But having said that, maybe we should shift to Savio the
Oh,
archivist.
thank you, thank.
And I saw the list. I saw the list of your work. That's simply phenomenal, man. That's amazing. Like the kind of things you've gone into. Just give us a list. I mean, I cannot remember all of them. There are almost all 26 letters of the English alphabet are covered.
Yeah, actually, much more. To be honest, it starts with autographs. So I've got, you know, I've got autographs of cricketers. I've got autographs of architects. I've got autographs of scientists. I've got autographs of authors. For example, I've got and all personalized. So I actually went to Sri Lanka. I was such a great fan of Arthur Clarke. I
Yeah.
have got his
Who was staying
autograph.
there? Who was staying there? Yeah.
Yes, yes, in Colombo, and in a very funny way in how I reached Sri Lanka, because when I was in the UK, I'm after completing my course uh, in Spain and Barcelona. I was holidaying in the UK, and I met an elderly architect, and he said, "Do you know about this gentleman who lives just south of you in Colombo?" So I said, "Yeah, Arthur Clarke." He's saying his brother is a good friend of mine, and if you go to Sri Lanka and if you take your his brother's name, you will gain access to Arthur Clarke. So I said, "Well, I'm going to take you on your offer." So this friend of mine came to India. His Arthur Clarke's brother came, flew straight to Colombo. This friend of mine happened to be an architect whose work I still admire, and we flew down together, literally at the at a whim, and we went and we met Arthur Clarke in his fortress in Colombo. And I never ever imagined, this is about 15, 20 years ago. I never ever imagined that an author could live under such guarded and secure, environment.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, one had to go through, several security measures to actually access him. But because we had his brother with us, we could bypass all of this. He had about 15 secretaries who were working with him, and I took a copy of the book, which is the sci-fi book. I can't remember it offhand. My God, pardon me, but he's actually initialed it for me, and a few years after that, he passed on. So I was very lucky to have met Arthur Clarke in his own domain, and I think I've got a picture of me with him, and he's signing the book. So I've got Arthur Clarke in my collection of books. I've got over, I've got, as I said, I've got probably 10 times more what is there in the background of what you have there in terms
How
of
many? How
books.
many autographs? How many autographs?
Maybe a few, closer to 1,000, perhaps.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've
And
got of politicians, I've got of I've got of the presidents of India, I've got the prime minister of India, and of course not addressed to me, but of different types. So hopefully one day, the I've got Gary Sober's autograph with the West Indies team,
wow.
Don Bradman and Wes Hall, and it's
And
just come as part of and their actual cyclo style, what should I say, they're formatted. I mean, who's the captain of the team, who's the vice captain, who's the physio, who's the manager, who are the extras, and they've all signed against their names and
wow.
their respective positions. So for me, that is an absolute uh, I mean, it's a treasure. I've got
But
my,
your other collections, we can't stop here because your other collections are so
yeah,
many.
newspapers. I've got Gandhiji's newspapers of the 1920s called Young India. Yeah. So, and not only that, they may be numbering a few hundred, but in that time, there are three types of editors. So one is Gandhiji himself, the other is Subbarao, where he actually writes saying that I am not going to be the editor for a certain amount of time, and hereby depute so and so to be the editor. So I've got all those things as well. So I mean, each one tells a story, and I want to put this all. I mean, I got them just by chance. They were all rolled up as
Radhi
as well, not raddi, in people's
collection.
flats, in trunks, and people said, help us to get these trunks down, and I would just, help them. They were put up in lofts, like most, unnecessary things, and I managed to get them. So
So you've had a collector bug in you since what age?
Well, we all start collecting as young boys and girls stamps, coins, books. For me, that just expanded. And technically, it's now reached such a stage where I do not know what I don't collect. I mean, in terms of
So tell us what else you collect. Tell us what else you collect because you told us
dictionaries,
just two
I
things.
love dictionaries.
Dictionaries.
Yeah, yeah, dictionaries. And if you want, I can show you one which is a French dictionary, and it's 1888. It's a Larousse dictionary. It's an illustrated dictionary, and there's another one which is the Complete Webster, which is again around that time, and it's literally 1,900 pages. It's a Tommy. And I've got the small little Webster, which is again printed in Germany, which is 1 inch by 1 inch and
Wow.
weighs perhaps about 25 grams. So
Oh
I can
gosh.
show you, if you have a few seconds to spare, I can
Yeah,
bring
please,
these,
please,
yeah,
please,
and show them
please.
to you and compare the size and the volume. Yeah, so just
Of
wait
course,
a
of
second.
course, of course, of course. So while Savio goes to get his dictionaries, the other things he collects are apart from autographs, are books, cameras, crockery, cutlery, drawings, electric items, which include switches, switchboards, appliances, electronic items, furniture, including Irani tables and chairs, glassware, household accessories such as traditional cookware, thermos flasks, thermometers, kettles, teapots, music and musical instruments, numismatics, photography, paintings, philately, stationery, including notebooks, diaries, calendars, greeting cards, typewriters, and telephones. And the last but not the least is writing instruments and accessories, which I have a weakness for also, but I don't collect. Paperweights, paper cutters, paper whatnots, etc. Savio, that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. Wow,
I'll just show
fantastic.
you a few. Yeah, I'll just show you.
Wow, 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 wow. Protecting it in the weather is really a challenge, no?
Yeah, it says
Especially in the weekends.
6,200 gravures. It says, you know,
That
it's
is the number of copies. That is no, what's that?
no, no, no. It means that there are
Bravos
so
is
many illustrations.
okay.
It's an illustrated book.
Wow, in those days, no?
Yeah, so this is 1932, as you can see.
My goodness.
Uh, this is one. Uh, this is the little Webster which I was talking about, which
Oh
is
gosh,
not,
there's a
yeah.
little bit beside, a little bit into
Sorry,
your
sorry.
screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fantastic. Oh wow, can you just open it? Oh my goodness, is it readable? Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. And it says that I was in so and so school at whatever. My
Okay.
handwriting was quite bad then. But just to show it to you, it was
Yeah.
published in, yeah, I don't know where my
A
hand is.
little bit, a little bit, a little bit. No, no, the other side. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, to your right. Yeah, yeah, fine, fine, fine. In the direction you're going. No, yeah, okay, fine. Wow. Oh gosh.
So it's printed
That's
in
so it was.
Germany. So this is called the Little Webster. Yeah. I'm going to show you something which is, ah,
Oh
this
my
is the
God.
complete Webster. One sec. I'll send you a WhatsApp image with the
Show the
two of them
spine. Show
together.
the spine because we are not getting an idea of the. Yeah. Oh gosh. How many kilos? Four,
This will
five.
be about 4 5 kilos, but that's not
Wow.
the weight. I mean, it's such a phenomenal book. One sec, I should have. It says,
Yeah. Wow. The complete. Yeah. Whatever. It's a bit hard to read the fine print, but yeah, I get an idea.
now I'm
That's
going to put
amazing.
the two of them together so you get a little bit of an idea of
The
what I
contrast.
have.
Huh? Slim
Yes,
and
yes.
fat. Slim and fat. A little bit. Yeah. 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 A little bit up. Little bit up. 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 Up towards your face. Wow. 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 That's something, man. That's really something. That's really something. Savio, you're quite a collector. You're amazing, and I didn't know these aspects to you. If I had not to write to you and get in touch and badger you for this interview, I would have never known it. It's such a pleasure meeting up and knowing one aspect. I'm not even sure that this is the complete Savio, but if I've
No,
forgotten to ask you anything, please.
I have a little profile which says, if you permit me, it's four sentences. I'm
Please.
also, yeah, it says, I'm a musician by birth, yeah, an architect by qualification, a wanderer by profession, and an assimilator of thoughts and ideas and memorabilia by default.
Amazing, amazing,
Yes.
fantastic, and such an interesting story. I mean, I'm enlightened and kind of blessed by meeting you and by getting to know. And I hope that we can take this across to a few more viewers along the way.
Thank you so
Thanks so
much.
much. Thanks, Savio, for your time and for being with us. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Have
And
a
when you're in
lovely,
Goa next, we must be in closer touch.
of course, definitely.
Now I know
Time
a little bit
permitting in
about it.
COVID. Yes, Deo Bore Karo, as they say,
Sukai karo,
and
Baba.
Deo Bole Raat Deo.
Same to you.
And thank you
Your
very,
Baba.
very much from the bottom of my heart. So kind
My
of you
pleasure. My,
to even think that I'm worthy of something like this.
you're doing
So,
me a favor. Let's put it that way. Thanks. Thanks so much. Thank
God
you.
bless
Bye.
you. Thank
Bye.
you so